Another prediction comes in, and it's not good for Auburn.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Brian Smith joining us for this Recruiting Thursday. Brian hosts The Portal, which is all Locked On Podcast Network's recruiting and NIL and transfer portal show. He covers it all over at The Portal several times a day. TJ Umenyiora, let's talk about him. Maybe some notes, a guy possibly to kind of keep an eye out for. We also have a big official visit weekend. We'll get Brian's thoughts on those guys coming in. And Jaylen Scott, the 2027 defensive back who committed earlier this week. You and I have not talked about him yet. Would love to get your thoughts on him. But let's start with the Fong Bomb. Wilt Fong, about 30 minutes before we're sitting down to record this, Brian, puts in a Fong Bomb, a prediction for Jireh Edwards, the 5-star defensive back from Maryland, to go to Alabama. And it just seems like over the last month or two, the momentum that Alabama has gotten, not only within the state, but nationally when it comes to recruiting, it doesn't seem to be slowing down. And this one hurts Auburn more than most do.
Yeah, the weird thing about this one is he's visited Auburn far more than Alabama. And maybe he just had a great relationship with the DB coach or something like that.
Yeah.
But when I saw him start visiting Alabama, it raised my antenna. And then I heard he had a really good visit last week, but I didn't know it was trending that fast. I don't know when Jireh's commitment date is, but Fong isn't going to put a prediction in unless he got somebody, one of the staffs or somebody told him. Like, that's how this works. I got a couple of those today on kids that have nothing to do with Auburn. That's how we know these things. These aren't suggestions. So unless he changes, that kid's going to Bama.
I mean, put him in the category, right, of these talented kids that seem to really enjoy Auburn, seem to really like Auburn.
Yep.
But there are probably a ton of questions just because they haven't been able to win yet. I think this feels different if Auburn wins 8 or 9 games last year.
If they go to the mid-level bowl, whatever it is at 8 wins, 100%. You can't win 5 games at Auburn.
No.
And they're suffering that now because there's 2 things I know about Auburn. They do a great job of getting them to campus, and it's not hard to sell. I live here too. It's not hard to sell Auburn. But 5 and 7 is real hard to sell.
It's hard to sell. Yeah.
So that's where we're at. And Bama, I think everybody knows. I mean, I'm sure about 99% of the people watching the show hate Bama, but they understand. They're not going to be below 9-3 very often. So that's an easier sell.
Right. So we'll see if, Auburn can stay in this one, and maybe if they can prove they have a good season, add him to the list of, if Auburn goes 8-4, 9-3 or better, maybe this is one, if they stick around and stay in it, perhaps they got a shot in December. And, it's not over. He hasn't committed to Bama yet, but it certainly seems like Alabama is trending there for sure. A kid who visited earlier this week, that is honestly a name that I haven't heard much about, but was told to kind of, hey, pay attention to this kid. TJ Umenyiora, he plays at Blessed Trinity Catholic over in Roswell, Georgia. That's a part of the country whose high school football you love, Brian.
Yes, it does.
But yeah, TJ Umenyiora, a corner, 6'1", 185. He's a 3-star, all according to 247. But this is a guy, it sounds like Auburn folks should possibly pay attention to. Are you hearing similar things?
Yeah, he's a kid that Auburn really likes, and he really likes Auburn. His official visit list, Auburn is one of the better programs by name, and he's a kid that's basically from the north side of Atlanta. So he's 2 hours from home. It's the happy medium.
Yeah.
Blessed Trinity's a great program. They have P4 kids pretty much every year, and they have arguably the nation's best 2027 defensive lineman. DJ Jacobs is a name you will be hearing very, very soon. Auburn's offered him too. So it'd be nice to get a nice DB that could play safety, could play corner, play nickel. He's got the length. We'll see where he goes. But I like this film. I think he's just as good a receiver as DB too. So
yeah, I do too. I almost like his receiver stuff more. So I mean, definitely a guy who's going to make a play on the football if he's also a receiver. So a guy who's not going to freeze up when the ball is in the air. So you got to love that. It's interesting. I mean, you normally when you talk about a guy who's a legacy. His father is O.C. Humanura, who played at Troy, was a Super Bowl champion for the New York Giants. You just think about how big his father was, and it's like this kid's playing corner and receiver. You don't typically see that too often. It's like the athletic genes pass through, but not the size. I guess it's kind of funny, kind of interesting. But obviously, his dad went to Troy, was a legend there. He took an official visit to Troy on May 9th. He also took an official visit to Northwestern, and then Auburn was late to offer him. Auburn offered him on May 21st, according to 247. Took an OV at the end of May to Mississippi State. And then, he was at Auburn on an official earlier this week. So Auburn kind of getting in there a little bit late, but due to the competition, they may solidly and firmly be in them.
I think it's interesting that his dad's a Troy guy, so he's probably going to be very, very familiar with Auburn. I'm sure he probably played Auburn at some point, and I'm sure he probably has been to Auburn to visit people. Probably made it easy. And then if he got offered on the 21st, I'd imagine Auburn's coaching staff was either there that day for May evaluation period or one of the days right there prior.
Well, OC went to Auburn High School. So, I mean, he knows the area.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was a big thing when he was good for the Giants. It was like, how did he not go to Auburn? That was kind of a big talking point when he was killing it for the Giants.
Oh, wow. That is a small world. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. It's like, how did he get to Troy? So, we'll see what happens with that. So, Umenyiora, a guy to pay attention to for the Auburn Tigers. Before we pivot to official visits coming up this week, and as far as guys that were reportedly on campus earlier this week for OVs, I'll just go through them. Stop me if there's somebody you say, hey, this is worth paying attention to. Tristan Keys, the 5-star receiver to LSU, visiting. I mean, it'd be great. I don't really feel like Auburn's got a legit shot here, but that'd be awesome. He's fantastic. Caden Prothro, one of the top tight ends in this class. He's a
top
Georgia
three
kid.
Right there with him. Georgia's the school to watch. Georgia, Florida, Auburn for Caden.
Yeah. Craig Tutt, a 4-star safety from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Danny Odom from Orlando, a 4-star corner. Travis Stevenson, a 3-star corner committed to Georgia Tech. I like him a ton.
Yeah, so does everybody else. He's one of the highest rising players in the country. Auburn would do well to get.
I compared him. I think it was on yesterday's show, Brian, to Sam Turner's recruitment. It was
that's a good
Atlanta
one.
kid committed to Georgia Tech, and it's like, wait, he's better than this. That's kind of what it feels like with Travis Stevenson.
No argument. I think that's an excellent comparison.
Whenever I make a recruiting take, you don't push back. I'm like, yes, validation. And then we mentioned TJ, and then the last guy, Devontae Anderson, another corner, 3-star kid from Winter Garden, Florida. So any of those stick out other than, obviously Keys, and then you just mentioned Stevenson, but anybody else?
Odom is a kid that I would watch. He can really play. That's a guy that I think has NFL ability.
Okay. Got it. Mega weekend this weekend as well. Who can Auburn land and help their case? And also, I think you could argue the two guys that are committed that are visiting this weekend are just as important. So all that coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the place to buy all of your tickets. It doesn't matter if it's for, buying ahead for NFL games now that the schedule's released, or I used them last week for the Super Regional. That was an incredible experience. Even though Auburn lost, it was still fun to see and be a part of history. Game Time, that's what they allow you to do. And look, it's easy because you can just trust the fact that everything that they're going to offer you price-wise, if it's got that, lightning bolt next to it, they're going to give you a deal. And I did a little bit of shopping, and it was the best. It was the best at Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Brian Smith, host of The Portal, hanging out with us on this Cruton Thursday. Let's start with the two guys that are committed, because I think their visits this weekend are crucial. Devin Carter, the 4-star wide receiver from Douglasville, Georgia, and then Shadarius Toodle, the 4-star linebacker from Mobile. Both of these guys got on the Auburn boat early, I think both of them are really, really solid players, and you're seeing other schools try to pick them away. If you're Auburn, I think you got to do everything you can to lock those guys down this weekend.
Shadarius Toodle is one of the interesting ones in general. Baylor visit, Georgia visit. Like
Fong, talk about Wilt Fong earlier. He put a Fong Bomb in for him to flip to Georgia a few weeks ago.
That's a recruitment that's all over the place. I have no idea where he's going. But anytime kids start taking visits and they're an in-state kid committed to your program, I question a couple of things. Number one, did they commit too early? And number two, do they feel like they're a priority by that staff? That doesn't be Auburn. It could be an LSU commitment. There's been a few of those over the years. I don't know what the deal is. Toodle was somebody Auburn offered like really early.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Same kind of deal with the other kid. I don't know. What's your take? Are you surprised by this? Because like the in-state kids last year, man, that was some like every weekend. I saw the same kid sitting and saying, right, hey, guys, like walking by them.
I think some of this is their focus elsewhere and maybe didn't make these kids feel like a priority, and they visited all these other places where they felt like a priority. And I think they want to make sure, hey, Auburn, we're good here, right? Like y'all still need us, right? The linebacker recruitment is super interesting to me because I'd be a little surprised if the other linebacker in Auburn's class currently, J. Mike, if he ended up signing with Auburn in December. Like that would surprise me, which then the very nature of that then tells me that keeping Shadarius Toodle in the class is even more important. And so like I think they're going to have some pretty honest conversations. But if you're Auburn, like I think Shadarius Toodle is a guy in state that should be a priority. Devin Carter, not an in-state guy, but definitely a position where you've got to say, hey, Devin, like you may not play year one, but you're going to play a ton year two when all these guys who are really, really talented get drafted. You're going to have to fill these holes that are eventually going to be left behind by these Cam Colemans and Malcolm Simmons and, all these other guys. So I think they're both super important, Brian.
I can't disagree. Carter's legacy to Florida State, that's interesting. His dad's not like just a Florida State player. He's a dude.
Sure.
He's an NFL guy for a while for Bobby Bowden. I think there's a really good chance he ends up at Florida State from what I've heard.
Yeah.
But, his dad's a Florida State legacy. So, but he's a kid they got early. They flipped him from Florida State, ironically. He committed even earlier to the Noles. Mm-hmm. So that would be rough. But Florida State's wide receiver room is in shambles. It's probably easier to play there. So that might be part of it too. I don't know. But my general sense is with every recruiting class now, you're going to lose 3 guys that commit. I don't care if you're Alabama, Texas, USC, whoever it is. That's never fun.
Yeah.
But in the NIL era, especially with the garbage that's going on with the house settlement, and I'll probably yell at them for years to come and have fun doing it.
Sure.
They've screwed this up so much with this stupid clearinghouse thing with passing the deals or not. I could see a lot of things falling through for a lot of kids over the next several weeks, with a lot of kids committing in early July. And that coming up, it's only 3 weeks for that house settlement goes into effect. So it's possible that some of these kids they didn't think they're going to get, they do, and vice versa. And I don't want it to be for those reasons, but that's another reason. Like kids are going to flip.
You got to think there's going to be a strategic element of getting involved and everything agreed upon before July 1st.
If you don't, your point is prudent. Why wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even if you think there's a chance you could flip later, like that's fine. Like you need to get in a boat and everything agreed upon before July 1st, in my opinion. Just in case, right? Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But I don't think there's any retroactive. So July 1st, there is, though. It's immediate.
Right.
So I don't know how they're going to do that stuff. That's going to be hard.
So Devin Carter, Shadarius Toodle, 2 guys that are currently committed to this class. We'll see if Auburn holds on to them. I think I feel better about Toodle than Carter, but I feel decent about both of them. But I could be ignorant to FSU on the Carter side of things. Sadarian Morgan, I mean, I think he's an incredible talent. I think, he's been a guy, one of my favorite members of this 2026 class for a long time. 5-star player, 30 minutes from Auburn in Alexander City. But it seems like everything's trended Alabama's way. and he seemed to be an Auburn lean for a while. This is Auburn's last best chance, I would say, in the form of an official visit to, make whatever sales pitch you need for Shadarius Morgan.
He was at Florida, I believe, last weekend. They think they're in it, but they think that Bama is the definitive leader. That is not a good sign.
Both of those things are probably true.
So I know he makes his decision on July 2nd. That's the Monday before July 4th. I'll be there, I'm sure, to check it out. He's a great kid, but I'm already planning to do my edit for Alabama in advance, if that tells you anything. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully he has the best visit any recruit has ever had. Braylon Womack, he is a safety. Is it from Flowood, Mississippi? I'm unfamiliar with.
He's basically from Jackson. That's what we'll say.
Got it. Hartfield Academy, 5-star defensive back.
Really good.
What do we know about this kid, and what do you know about Auburn's chances with him?
I know him well. He's an elite student, great kid, plays nickel, plays safety. He'll play some linebacker for his high school. He's a thumper. He is an all-around player. Most schools he would go in and play, make the 2 deep pretty quick. Auburn's pretty deep at safety.
Yeah.
But even at Auburn, I think he could play early. Florida, Ohio State are 2 schools that I've heard with him the most. He grew up an Ohio State fan, for whatever that's worth. That's kind of random for a kid from Mississippi. But
his last visit next weekend, the 20th, is with the Buckeyes. So
yeah, if you don't knock him out this weekend, it's going to be rough then. So
yeah,
but he's an elite player. That is definitively a top 100 guy, and he's the kind of guy that can play early. So
yeah,
he's worth the effort.
Yeah, OVs appear to be Florida and A&M, then obviously Auburn, and then next is Ohio State. 247 has him announcing on August 22nd, so after the dead period, I guess, which is interesting. You're seeing less of that these days. But great player. We'll see if Auburn makes, I don't know, I just haven't heard a whole lot of chatter about him. I'd be a little surprised, pleasantly surprised, if Auburn landed him, but we'll see. Xavier Crowell kind of had somewhat of an interesting recruitment. This is a kid who reclassified, correct?
Yeah, he's a freakazoid.
Yeah, from Jackson, Alabama, 4-star. If he would have stayed in his original class, he'd probably be a 5-star, or he'd have the case to be. He's electric. A lot of people labeling this as an Iron Bowl recruitment. I'd be surprised if he went anywhere other than Alabama at this point.
Yeah, he plays with Landon Duckworth down there at Jackson. They've got like 5 or 6 just skill kids that are going to go Division I. This school is loaded.
I don't know how you stop them. It's
called you forfeit. That's how you do. You don't let them get on the field. The game's already over. They just destroy people with their division. Yeah, their skill talent's gross. But this is a kid that just gets to the outside, outruns everybody, and it looks like Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl. So I don't know what Auburn's situation is, but because they took Eric Perry the other day, I'm assuming they did think they were getting it. That's my guess.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think all of the running backs that they're pursuing, so Crowell, Cooper, and then Jay Lamar, they would take. They're all good enough where it's like you don't really worry about how many guys you got. Maybe you just don't take a transfer portal guy at the end of this year if you get both those guys. Whatever, that's fine. But I think I would just be surprised if they added another running back. But if they do add another running back, that's going to be a dang good player.
Oh, if they take one, any of those 3 guys have NFL potential. Those are all elite players. Crowell, Lamar, and especially Cooper. Cooper's insane.
Yeah. I mean, I think Cooper is the best of them for sure. And then, I say this all the time, but just a reminder, because I don't really see anybody else saying it, but Omar Mabson, who's on campus now, is supposed to be in this class. He reclassified. So you're getting 2 guys that are this class's age on your roster. And so I do think that's a factor too. So I don't know if it makes sense to have 3 guys that are the same age in your running back room. But if one of those 3 guys is absolutely elite, like we're talking about with Crowell and Cooper and Lamar, you do it. You do it.
100%.
Man, you're agreeing with me a lot today. I feel so good. Last guy, Cooper Jaworski. He's an interior offensive lineman. It seems like every week, every group of official visits, they get one offensive lineman who's from out west somewhere. This weekend, it's Cooper Jaworski from San Juan Hills in California.
That's basically LA, if I remember right. Maybe not, but whatever. I don't know anything about that kid, but as you always like to say, Zach, I'll take it.
Sure.
He's an offensive lineman.
Sure. 6'4", 280. Add, 10, 20 pounds to him. It's a little skinny, but like, okay, I'll take it. Whatever. Fine. Great. Come on. I don't know. This cycle, they haven't had a ton of luck with those guys from out west, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's part of it. You just bring the kids in for visits. They didn't think they were going to get DeAndre Carter a few years ago either, and he loved the visit. So that's why you do it.
Yep. Yeah, clearly there's some level of interest, or he wouldn't fly all the way over here. So there you go. Let's talk about Jaylen Scott in the 2027 class next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Make the portal with Brian Smith your second listen. Get your daily fix on all of the NIL and recruiting and transfer portal action happening. Boy, is there a ton of it. All right, so Jaylen Scott, the defensive back from Williamson, commits to Auburn earlier this week. I think he's a really solid player. The first member of Auburn's 2027 class. He sees himself as a leader, as a kid who's going to be active in recruiting and getting other people to join him in the 2027 class. You also covered him when he was committed to FSU, so you've known about this kid for a while. Your thoughts on Jaylen Scott?
I think he can play multiple positions. He might even be able to play on the offensive side of the ball, but nickel or safety or locks. Question is, how big is he going to get? And he just seems like he's the kind of guy that wants to get after it. So physical, possibly playing two positions, and then Williamson's an important program for Auburn and Bama for that matter. It's one of the primary programs in Mobile. That's the city that you just don't know where kids are going to go. They could go LSU, they go to Georgia, they go anywhere. That's an interesting player. I'm curious to see where he ends up in terms of Auburn secondary, but getting a kid early out of there bodes well because there's always 5 to 10 kids in that area that Auburn's recruiting. So getting one early, that's a great start.
Yeah. I like his game. I mean, he seems pretty athletic. And one of the things that, like, I asked him, if you missed it, go check it out earlier this week. I had him on the show. I think it was the Tuesday show. But I asked him, like, point blank, like, for the Auburn people who don't know who you are and clearly want to know who you are, like, who are you? And he talked about how good of a leader he is. And he's like, I'm versatile. I'm going to put in the work. And I mean, to me, he just seems like a football player, which is exactly what we need. And that also seems like kind of the trend of what they've gone after with these defensive backs.
Eric Winters kind of fit that too.
Winters, Fagans. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys.
Yeah, Winters could have played running back for you if you wanted him to. Just a really good football player. Same kind of deal. If you wanted to put this kid, stick Jaylen Scott at running back, he'd probably figure it out and at least be serviceable.
Yeah.
So, and I'll take all the Mobile kids I can get.
Sure. He talked about recruiting his teammate. Are you familiar with his teammate? His name is Ellis McGaskin. He plays linebacker.
National recruit. Like Notre Dame's hard after him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like he's wherever he wants to go.
So he's the entirety of Auburn's 2027 class right now. When do you think, because this cycle has already been so different historically than what we've seen in the past, with one, the dead period being in July, and two, everybody waiting on the whole NIL and rev share rules to go into effect. What do you expect for the timeline for 2027 moving forward?
That is a great question. I've been talking to people about that. Now, everybody's kind of waiting to see, just to be clear, July 1st through July 15th, and then I think it'll just be full speed ahead. Everything will switch to 27 really by September 1st, if not earlier for some schools, depending on how many commitments you get. That's why getting commitments now through early July is pivotal, or you're going to be behind on 27. The schools that get up to 15 to 18 commits already, and they're just kind of cherry picking down the end, they're going to have a leg up. So Auburn obviously wants to get commitments for 26, but that's also in part due to 27 as well.
Yeah, well, it was really like Big Cat weekend last year.
Yeah.
So like that was middle of summer. where they really started picking up. And I think they had they may have ended that day or that week with the number 1 or 2 class, depending on where you look, that they got a lot of momentum. That's when they got Hezekiah and, several of those guys. So that can't happen in July this year, obviously, because of the dead period. Do you think there will be a group of guys in the 2027 class that will still want to commit before their junior year? Is that when you think that pocket of time will happen, or will it happen during the season after visits?
That is the great question, because they're not allowed to visit in July. So I don't know how they do it. I know some kids, I know Clemson's done this. They've had kids visit unofficially, even on some of the weekends they had official visits that were juniors. I don't know. I'm certain that Auburn wouldn't say no if a kid either one of these kids wanted to come up. They're not going to say no, but they have to do it. I think it's July or June 23rd or something. All the way through July is dead. So you've only got 2 weekends to do it. Otherwise, August, I think, is dead too. They're trying to help the coaches out, so they're not constantly being bugged. That's what this new rule is about, and I get it. But otherwise, I think it's going to go into September. You'll just see kids randomly commit, which is not much fun for me, but that's another story. Love those 3 p.m. phone calls and I'm out doing something and somebody commits. Love those. But that's what we're
Brian, you want to go live with me real quick?
I've heard that before.
Yep. Heard it this week. I appreciate it as always, man. How can people check out everything that you've got going on right now?
The Portal Podcast, wherever you get your pods, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get them. Recruiting, NIL, transfer portal each and every day.
Yep. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps the show out a ton, and make the Portal your second listen today. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.